Here's a theme song, you know it's not a mean song. It's a good song, just as it should song. American Brews and Tunes. Shibbity beeby dow.
100!
Welcome to episode 100.
This is American Brews and Tunes. I'm Steven Johnston.
My name is Jesse Titus.
What are we, like 3 years into recording by now?
2017 was the first episode.
So yes. 3.5.
Actually, no. Technically, December 2016.
Was it then?
Yeah, I actually looked today on Spotify.
So, still about 3.5 years.
Yeah. Well, because we recorded that one in December, and then we took a long break because of Christmas. And then the next episode was in February of 2017.
Oh, weird. I think we put that episode out and we're like, we need to get a website and all kind of things together.
Yeah.
We put it out before actually having anything ready to go.
Yeah, and now we don't even have a website anymore, do we?
We do, but it's like we don't have a domain name because I didn't want to pay for it.
Yeah. we already have an Instagram. We don't need
a website. It's not necessary.
But anyway, this is episode 100.
It took us 3.5 years, but we
Holy
have finally
poop.
recorded 100 episodes.
This is crazy.
It really is. It's been
a long time.
Over 100 albums. I mean, now we're doing one episode an album, but before we were doing 2 episodes.
Yeah, and
2 albums an episode.
And over 100 different beers tried.
Yeah,
probably over 200.
Yeah, no. I'd say over 200.
Yeah, right.
Probably over 200 albums.
Yeah,
yeah.
That makes sense mathematically, right?
I think so. It depends when we stop doing 2.
Because we did one-offs as well.
Yeah, but I'd say we were over 60 or 70.
Probably like 182 albums.
I'd say 182 albums exactly. That makes perfect sense.
Yeah,
with the calculation.
But anyway, this is a special episode, obviously, because it's episode 100. But we're going to be going over 5 albums that have stuck with us, that our respective co-host has recommended for us.
Yes. So I'll be taking in my favorite 5 albums that Jesse recommended.
And I'll be doing the same.
Yeah. Now, I guess we didn't really talk parameters too much, but I didn't select any one-off.
Neither did I.
Episodes. No. Otherwise, my top list would just be Blink-182 albums, and that's not what we were going for at all.
So essentially, it's like
it had to be recommended.
It had to be like an album that you haven't heard before, or like a band you haven't heard much of before, and it stuck with you enough to re-listen to it, to check out their other stuff, to essentially just keep listening after the episode.
100 episodes, we had to recap on some important ones.
We have to recap, yeah, for sure.
And we'll do the same thing again on episode 200.
Yeah, exactly.
In 3.5 years. Or maybe sooner, because now that we split the...
it'll definitely be sooner.
Yeah, it'll be sooner. But before we touch on those, we've got a very special beer for today.
A really special beer.
This was released earlier this year, February 2020, before coronavirus. Oh, my goodness. This was back when we were standing in big lines of people.
Yep.
This is at Bearded Iris's fourth anniversary party. Yep. The beer is called Counting Sheep 1. It's a barrel-aged imperial stout, and here's what it says. An interplanetary exchange, aged 12 months in wheated bourbon barrels, then conditioned with Costa Rican coffee, salted caramel, Tahitian and Madagascar bourbon vanilla, and milk sugar.
Dang. That's
interesting.
A tall list.
When they say wheated bourbon, I am inclined to believe that it might be Weller barrels that they've aged this in.
Okay.
If it's not Weller, then perhaps Maker's Mark. I don't know. Those are the 2 wheated ones that pop into my mind. This does clock in at a whopping 10% ABV. So it's
10%? It's for our 100th episode.
It's out of this world, just like the spaceship that's on the bottle.
Heck yeah. I'm fairly excited to try this beer.
I am.
Mostly because Bearded Iris, if you've listened to our podcast for any amount of time, you know that we very much like Bearded Iris.
It's my favorite Nashville brewery for sure.
And you know that generally they stick to a New England style IPA type beer. So them producing a stout is very interesting.
They've done stouts before, and they usually do real big, massive stouts similar to this.
Yes. So I'm definitely looking forward to tasting this beer. I think it's going to be amazing, hopefully.
I'm assuming that's even because this is a narrow glass.
Yeah, that's fine. So yeah, Steve's pouring them right now, and then we're gonna give them a shot.
I'm excited to try the Tahitian and Madagascar bourbon vanilla.
Yeah.
So they went so far as to get 2 different kinds of bourbon vanillas.
2 different vanillas?
I know Madagascar is in Africa. Where's Tahiti? Tahiti, is that
Tahiti?
right? Where is that?
Is it Tahiti?
I don't know.
I would assume so.
I know there's also Tahitian treat, another beverage.
Yeah, that's
of the
a very
fruit
sugary
punch
fruit punch.
persuasion. Yeah. I don't think this is going to taste at all like Tahitian treat.
There's Tahiti and Tahini.
Goodness, this smells like caramel.
It's an island in French Polynesia.
Okay, so that's interesting. This smells like straight caramel and a little bit of bourbon.
Really?
Get a whiff. It's not at all what I was expecting.
Ooh, that smells really good.
I'm getting bourbon, a little bit of alcohol, and caramel.
That smells
mainly
delicious.
caramel.
That smells delicious.
I've never had a stout that smells like this before.
As some people say, delicious.
Delicious.
Let me see where this island is. I'm zooming out on Google Maps right now because I want to see.
Polynesian Islands.
Twist.
By Hawaii, I would assume?
Yeah, by Hawaii.
That's the Polynesian Islands, right?
It's to the east of Australia and to the west of Chile. All right. That's where Tahiti is. So I would assume that's where the vanilla's from.
I would assume so too.
But anyway, thank you for joining us for our 100th episode.
I did look on Untapped, and it does say Weller Special Reserve Bourbon Barrels.
Okay.
And the Costa Rican coffee is from Crema.
Okay.
So local Nashville there.
Gotcha.
I'm excited to try this one. I think it's going to be delicious.
Delicious. So on this 100th episode, let's say what we always say on American Brews and Tunes. And you can, of course, join in with us. If maybe you're having a beer right now, maybe you're having this exact beer right now. That'd be pretty amazing.
I would be generally surprised. Very genuinely surprised.
But
as we always say on American Brews and Tunes, down the delicious hatch.
Down the 100 episode hatch.
Oh, this is a blast of sweet up front, then booze, then caramel.
What?
And vanilla.
Whoa. I need to take exactly 10 seconds to process this.
I was telling you what I was experiencing live there.
Yeah.
It was just like a blast of sweet, which I couldn't really tell what it was. Then I got this boozy taste, and then it was like straight caramel and vanilla.
Jeez, this is a crazy beer.
Yeah. I don't know if I got much coffee, but I have to go back in because
I'm getting a little bit of coffee
on the aftertaste, maybe.
Yep. Yeah, on the aftertaste, on the back end of the mouthfeel.
There was a lot in that sip.
Yeah, I'm getting a ton of vanilla, a ton of maltiness,
a ton of caramel,
and then just like enough of the coffee flavor to almost taste like if you were having like a caramel ice brew coffee or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's so creamy, so not overpoweringly sweet. Like they balance the malts and the like the grains really well with the sweetness. This is just a fantastic beer.
It's intense and delicious and smooth. The sky's really the limit for this beer. I want to go back in and see if I can taste some of these bourbon notes. I am excited because when it comes to bourbon, wheated bourbons are my favorite. Maker's Mark and Weller are up there for me.
Yeah. Yeah,
oh my gosh.
I'm definitely gonna have to look for the bourbon flavor a little bit more.
It's in there.
Try to taste the bourbon flavor.
It's in there. When you get there is a slight alcohol flavor in the middle that you'll taste, and I think it's in there. Wow, it really is a flavor journey with this one.
Yeah, I can definitely taste the slight whiskiness.
Yeah,
or the bourbonness.
This is good.
It really is. I really
like this. I think this one may change as it warms up.
I think it definitely will.
If it does, we will let you know. Otherwise, let's dive in.
Yeah, do you just want to like switch off?
Yeah, let's switch off. But
all right.
I do want to say I've got 2 predictions for what I think you're going to pick.
Okay.
I know you'd already mentioned pears, so I'm not going to guess that one.
Okay.
I'm assuming that's already on the list.
Okay.
I'm going to guess Propaganda Supporting Cast, and I'm going to guess Flatliners Inviting Light.
Okay.
Obviously, don't tell me,
I won't tell you.
but we'll find out.
I will guess Radiohead.
Which album? I've reviewed
OK
two.
Computer.
That's one. And
I will guess the Decemberists. What a Beautiful World, What a Terrible World.
that's two guesses. All right.
That's two.
Well, let's see if those are up there.
Okay, let's do it.
I do have mine in order. Jesse's are a little bit more random, but you can.
I don't, but I'll put it in. I will put it in order though.
Okay, so
I'll do that.
Let's start with number 5 then. I'll go first.
All right, go for it.
The Shins shoots too narrow.
All right, yeah. I should have guessed that. I should have known.
Yeah.
Because after I've recommended that, like you have listened to almost all their catalog, right?
I think there's
except
the
Inverted
album.
World.
No, I've listened to that one. That's the first one, right?
Have you listened to Wincing the Night Away?
I've listened to that one like once. I need to listen to it.
That
more.
one is slower and a little bit more difficult to get into.
Yeah. So I technically have listened to them all. I just haven't listened to that one much.
Which episode was that? That was one of the first ones.
That was episode 2.
Mm-hmm.
Believe it or not.
Dang, episode 2.
So that was technically the first recommendation because our first episode was reviewing Frank Turner's positive songs for negative people.
Yep.
So this was the first album that you had recommended for me. This was my first experience with the Shins in general.
Mm-hmm.
I had heard the name The Shins, and I thought they were a foo-foo hipster band.
I mean, they kind of are.
they kind of are, but I wasn't expecting this. When Kissing the Lipless comes in,
oh yeah,
it really threw me off. And for the longest time, I called this album Kissing the Lipless.
Yes, you did. I believe in that episode, you multiple times called the album Kissing the Lipless.
The Shins album, Kissing the Lipless.
Yeah.
Blah, blah, blah. Yeah. But that song really surprised me, and the rest of the album did too.
Was that back in the day when we were in the garage recording on the one blue microphone?
Yep, that was the garage.
Yeah, that's so funny.
Actually, this one I think we just recorded at the kitchen table.
Oh, really?
Yeah, we tried it out. The audio is not the best on this one.
Yeah, I actually went back and listened to like clips of like the first few episodes today.
It's noticeable.
And it's really funny how like the first episode, the second episode, we recorded them in the garage on one microphone.
You can hear the echoes of the garage.
You can definitely hear the echoes. Like our voices sound distant a lot of the times. Yeah. But we've
got 2 microphones.
Funny. Yeah, it's funny how in 100 episodes we made a lot of changes in terms of that and the format of the podcast as well.
But this album really kind of showed me what James Mercer can do because he pretty much is the Shins.
Yeah, for sure. Because the members of the Shins are always kind of rotating.
Yeah. Or
they're not technically a band. Like they just kind of all come together to record the album.
Yeah, pretty much. And then James Mercer puts the band together to tour.
Yeah.
Yeah. But this is great. I still listen to it. And St. Simon is probably my favorite Shins song.
Yeah. You got that ooh moment.
Mm-hmm. Da 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 dum ch da da dum dum. La da da dum, da 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 dum dum, da da dum dum, da 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 da. So good. It makes me want to murder somebody with kindness.
With kindness, with love.
Yeah. What would be your number 5?
All right, my number 5 is Jawbreaker.
Oh.
Which was from episode 38.
Yeah. The album Dear You.
The album Dear You, yeah. I haven't listened to any more of like their albums or their earlier stuff, but the reason that this one stuck with me so much is because so many bands that I do listen to have been influenced by Jawbreaker.
Yep.
And like reference Jawbreaker as a huge influence on them. So like to hear the album that like made them Jawbreaker, you know, or like that so many people reference has really stuck with me. General.
There's one other Jawbreaker album I might recommend at some point that also has some, like you know what's the punk song? 1, 2, 3, 4. Who's punk? What's the score?
Yeah.
The album that's from is one I might recommend. But
right.
Dear You, I think it's definitely my favorite.
Yeah, it's such a fantastic, just well written, cohesive album. That's the reason why. That's definitely one of the albums that has stuck with me because I think it's definitely influenced me in certain ways as well.
Yeah, I could see that.
So,
yeah, good song. Good album.
Good album, for sure.
My number 4 is the Decemberists. Hazards of Love.
Oh, Hazards of Love. I was gonna guess that as well, but then I was like, I don't know.
I do really enjoy What a Beautiful World, What a Terrible World.
Yeah.
But Hazards of Love I like more.
Yeah.
This is from episode 5, so it's another early one.
Another very early one. Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Before this, I had next to no experience with the Decemberists. I only knew Sons and Daughters from The Office when Dwight's family played it on the porch. It's so random. And so I thought they were like this folky folk band, like just folk all around.
Yep.
Acoustic guitars. And this album took me by surprise because there's some heavy guitars.
Yeah.
And some rock and some operatic elements, I'd say.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a concept album also.
Yeah.
It was a weird one. Like,
it's definitely strange.
It's strange, and there's not really many songs in here that hold their own, other than maybe like the Rake song.
They're not supposed to.
Yeah.
I mean, I think the Rake song was maybe the only.
It's the only one maybe you can
single
listen to out of context and still
like rock to it.
Yeah. But I love listening to this album front to back, and it's a fantastic way to kill an hour.
Yeah. I used to do that on car rides.
This is a good
on long
road
car
trip
rides. Yeah.
album.
I used to
or
just
if you're going on a long run, this is a great one. The story's awesome. The music's good. It's I think it's very well written. I just really enjoy this one, and I go back to this more than I go back to What a Beautiful World, What a Terrible World.
Yeah, I got you.
Great album, though.
It's actually been a long time since I've listened to that album.
Maybe it's time to come back.
Maybe it is. So for my number 4, I'm going to say Alkaline Trio, Crimson.
Oh, that's a surprise.
I had never listened to Alkaline Trio before. This was episode 52.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason that I put them on this list is, I guess, just because of how much I enjoy not only Matt Skiba's writing style, but Dan Adrino's writing style as well.
Yeah.
And
they complement each other very well.
Yeah, like the whole, just the entire way they compose an album, the entire way they write songs, the melodies that they write, the difference in their voices. I just think that they're, in general, just a fantastic band.
I agree.
That everybody should listen to.
Yeah, and this is a good album.
I've definitely checked out their other albums, and I actually need to buy. Well, I don't need to buy the CDs, but I kind of want to.
If you want to, that doesn't hurt.
But yeah,
Support the band somehow.
They are a band I really, really want to see live now. I kind of also gauge it on that, like bands that I want to see live now. Mm-hmm. Some of the bands on my list I have seen live.
Yeah. That's how I gauge it too. Is if I've like went out and bought the record, or if I've gone to see them live.
Yeah.
Even though I've never seen any of these bands on this list live, but I would.
We've had opportunities to see the Shins.
Yeah,
but we missed it. Forgot twice
until after it was over.
Yeah.
I mean, I did the same thing with The Offspring. Whoops. All right. Shall I move on to number 3 on my list?
Yes.
All right. Number 3 is Arcade Fire.
Arcade Fire. All right.
The Suburbs.
Oh, The Suburbs.
From episode 22.
Not Neon Bible from episode 3 or 4.
That was a really early one, yeah. I really like Neon Bible. And without The Suburbs, Neon Bible might have taken this place.
Yeah.
But I didn't want to put 2 from the same band.
Yep.
I think all around this has better production, better songwriting, maybe even more thought than Neon Bible. Maybe not. But I just think it like as an album, it's
like more cohesive.
Way more cohesive. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think there's any songs that are skippers. Like I might skip a couple songs here and there on Neon Bible.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't skip anything on The Suburbs.
Yeah.
And I have not bought Neon Bible on vinyl. I have bought The Suburbs, though.
Oh, okay.
And it sounds really, really good on vinyl.
Does it?
Yeah. It's just a fantastic album.
It really is.
And again, even before Neon Bible, I had no experience with Arcade Fire.
Yeah.
I thought, like, the Shins, they were a foo-foo hipster band. And they kind of
Did you even know who Arcade Fire was before?
I knew who they were, yes.
Yeah. Probably from Where the Wild Things Are.
I knew that song, yep, from the trailer for that. You had talked about them before, and there's a Arcade Fire shirt in the office.
Oh, okay.
When they're christening the baby, and she like poops in the dress, or pees on the dress. Do you remember when they're christening their baby, Jim and Pam?
Oh, you're talking about The Office. Okay, yeah.
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 And Jim's like,
Yes.
oh no.
And Jim has to go change her.
It's an adult-sized Arcade Fire shirt
Yeah.
that he brings her back into the church with.
Yeah, it's like blue or whatever.
So random.
Yes, I do remember that.
But I really, really like The Suburbs.
Yeah,
Great album.
fantastic album. My number 3 is Bad Religion.
Which one?
From...
I'm going to guess No Control.
You got it.
That was a tough one.
Episode 7.
That's a great one.
For me, Bad Religion is a completely separate type, like almost a completely separate type of punk rock. You know, like you have NoFX, you have like The Clash, you have Rancid, and then you have like in this almost like outlier situation, Bad Religion, where like they're pretty much always like the same, like always really fast. And the way Greg Graffin sings and the way they write melodies and the content of their songs are always very similar. And so like I was not privy to that type of punk rock before you recommended it to me. At first, it was kind of difficult to get into.
A lot of it it all sounds the same.
Yeah, because I was
degree.
like, man, like all these songs kind of sound similar, and I'm not the biggest fan of it. But then as I kept listening to it, I was like, oh, these songs are just so good.
Yep.
And just so catchy. And then we saw them live as well, which was
so
awesome.
good live.
They were
it was
so
such
tight.
a good show live.
That was at Cannery, right?
Cannery, yeah.
Yeah. So that is my number 3, just because I've seen them live, or I've like really wanted to see them live, and then I did see them live. You have before. And I've gone out and checked out their other albums as well, especially their newest one.
Oh, it's so good.
It's amazing. So that's one of the bands that I'll always continue to listen to.
Yeah, makes sense. Same here.
Yeah.
All right, my number 2 is Frightened Rabbit.
Oh,
Painting of a Panic Attack.
okay, yeah.
This was from episode 77, obviously
Okay.
because it was a repeating one.
Yep.
The second album I reviewed from Frightened Rabbit.
The first one was Winter of Mixed Drinks.
Yeah, and I really liked Winter Mixed Drinks, but not as much at first.
Yeah.
Even if you go back and re-listen to the episode, I wasn't that huge a fan of his voice.
Yeah.
But I continued to listen to it after we'd done that episode. And then Scott Hutchinson, rest his soul, passed away.
Yeah.
So I really kind of dived in after that.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't really listen to too much of their other things, but I kept going back to Winter Mixed Drinks until you recommended Painting of a Panic Attack.
Yes.
And I think this, as a whole, holds up better than Winter Mixed Drinks. Scott Hutchinson's death really kind of put a different context to a lot of the music. Not that was intended, but
yeah, it definitely it puts an unwanted context onto most of his music.
Yeah, it
Or pretty
really
much all of it.
kind of puts a shadow over a lot of things he sings about.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of sad stuff on this album. Also, a lot of positivity, strangely. That you might not expect.
Yeah, it's always really interesting listening to songs on that album, like I Still Want to Be Here.
Yeah.
And like the title track, Painting of a Panic Attack. You know, like there's an underlying current of positivity in a lot of his songs, or an underlying current of like hopefulness.
Yeah.
You know?
But they're just a really great band. I've gone back and listened to. I haven't listened to all their albums, but I've checked out a bunch of their other ones, like the Midnight Organ Fight. And what was the one that has the
Grays?
Woodpile?
Oh yeah, pedestrian verse.
Yes, that one's pretty good, but this one's just such a great album.
Yeah.
My favorite song of that still is "I Wish I Was Sober."
That's a great song.
Great song, gets me every time, but fantastic.
I wish that I was sober.
They're the better version of We Were Promised Jetpacks.
The
two Scottish bands that exist.
I would have to agree with you.
But no, We Were Promised Jetpacks is good also.
But yeah, he's
just different. Very different bands.
That band, there's their writing style and Scott Hutchinson's melodic composition and
his lyrics.
His lyrics are just so fantastic.
Yeah, great album. What's your number 2?
My number 2 is Pears. Green Star.
Great album.
Episode 24.
I wasn't sure that you were going to like this one. I was kind of throwing it out there. But
Yeah, I know. I remember after you recommended it to me, you had said, I don't know if you'll like it. Mainly because I think your reasoning was that he like screams,
and it was heavier.
and it
than
was
I
a
think,
little bit heavier than I was used
like
to.
Post-hardcore pop with that pop sensibility, I guess.
Yeah.
So I wasn't sure what you were going to think of it.
Yeah. The fact that the way that Zach Quinn writes songs with pairs, the fact that he has like the really hard, gruff screaming and juxtaposed with the really melodic, like vocal parts.
Melodic,
yeah. Just it works so well together.
It does.
And his songwriting style with them, the quickness of like the drums and the heaviness of the guitars, and just
shifting time signatures from time to time, or just changing.
It's like
speed in general.
It's not too far in one direction, you know, because you know how like there are some bands that are just like, we're gonna change the time signature 200 times during this song. It'll be 4/4, 10/4. Like, you know, like they're changing it way too much. Like they do it just enough, and they have just enough like screaming, just enough melodic singing in their songs to make them just super catchy and fantastic.
I always like to think of it as like a metaphor that they just pepper in enough melody to, like, so that every time you come upon like an awesome melody, it's like a treat. You're like, oh,
yeah,
and then back to the craziness.
It's like a relief for your ears, in a way. So it's not just like one dimensional. You're not listening to one thing the entire time. You're, you get a break here and then. Yeah. And his regular singing voice is fantastic.
It is. It really is. And we have seen them live.
We have, yeah. We saw them at the end.
They hold up very well live.
They do. It was such high energy.
Yeah.
And
for that tiny crowd.
The bassist was really funny too. Remember when they were like, do some impressions?
Oh, yeah.
And you were like, did he do an impression of...
It was a terrible impression. It was
just like a really dumb impression.
It was a very dumb one, but
was
it was
funny.
Batman? I can't remember
what
it
was. He was doing an impression of Batman, and he was like, hey, I'm Batman. Something
Whatever
really
it was stupid, but it was so funny.
But yeah, it was really goofy. And then we, since it's at a small venue, we hung out with them a little bit afterwards.
Yeah. Great band, though. Great album.
Fantastic band.
Before I get to my number one, I do have two honorable mentions. I don't know if you had any ones that were almost major list.
I did not, but...
the two that I picked were Catfish and the Bottlemen Balcony from episode 19.
Oh,
I really like that one. I still come back to it.
Interesting.
But I almost don't have as much of a desire to like dive into their other stuff. Like I've listened to a couple things here and there, but I don't know if I want to dive into another record.
Yeah.
I might eventually, but...
Let me try to guess your other honorable mention.
I don't think you will.
Really?
But see if you can guess.
You don't think I'll guess it?
I don't think so.
Okay. I'm going to go with Vampire Weekend.
David Bowie, Black Star.
Oh, okay.
Shoot. Episode 26. Very different.
Yeah.
Than Vampire Weekend. Yeah.
Super different album.
And even for him, a constantly changing artist, persona-wise, music-wise.
Like, he just changed every single year, every single decade.
And the intentionality that was written into this album is just absurd.
Very, very cool.
Yeah, it's so good. Like the weird free jazz.
The intentionality of like being influenced by rappers like Kendrick Lamar and...
Yeah, he said they listened to Pimp a Butterfly when they were doing that.
Yeah, and he was just like...
And the context that he knew he was dying.
Yeah, that album has just always been super intense in a weird way. Mm-hmm. Because he wrote it and recorded it when he knew that he was going to die. So it's just super interesting to really dig into the lyrics.
And he died 2 days later.
Yeah, it's super interesting.
Yeah, those are my honorable mentions. I'm about to reveal number one.
Number one,
Radiohead, OK Computer.
Yeah, I got it right.
From episode 7. Before you had me listen to this, I only knew the song "Creep."
Yeah.
I'm sure that's one of the few songs that everyone knows.
Very different than Creep.
Very different. So knowing Creep, I was like, it's going to be a grungy record because Creep's kind of grungy and good, but like not something that I was wanting at the time.
I'll probably like it, but it's not going to be anything too crazy.
Yeah. As soon as Airbag kicked in with the jingle bells and that guitar line and the loop drums, I was like, this is not Creep at all. And in fact, I knew that it wasn't going to sound like Creep because I'd seen one of those top songs of the 90s countdowns like on VH1. And Creep was on there, and they're like, Radiohead hates this song, and it sounds nothing like the rest of their stuff, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
So I always had that in the back of my mind, but I hadn't listened to anything until this.
Yeah.
And so I had no clue what was to come, but from front to back, I like the album immediately on the first listen, which rarely happens for me. I typically have to listen several times before I like something.
Yeah.
So this kind of opened my willingness to listen to things that I wasn't sure about.
I suppose, this is episode 7. Yeah. So that makes sense.
Yeah. It definitely opened up my view on Radiohead. I was like, I should check out some more of their stuff.
Yeah.
Since then, other than Moonshaped Pool, I have listened to every single Radiohead album and liked them all. Pablo Honey is okay.
Yeah.
But every other album after including and after the Bends is fantastic.
Yeah.
Every song I think on here is unique and great. Like there's no two songs that have the same sound or same feel. There's like happy songs, there's rock songs, there's songs that will be like the most depressing thing you've ever heard in your life.
Yep.
Exit music from a film.
Yep.
Paranoid Android is probably their magnum opus. If I saw them live and they didn't play this, I'd be disappointed.
It would be
to a degree.
Surprising. Yeah. Well, I've heard that they don't normally play their big songs.
I think they would play this one though.
Probably.
But you never know. I would still enjoy it, but
yeah,
it wouldn't be the same.
For sure.
But this is a great album. And the reason I picked this over the Bends, other than the fact that I like it better, is I think it shows the shift for them. Because they changed so much from the band that they were.
100%. Yeah.
And this is the album where they started to really show that they were different. Obviously, on the next album, Kid A, that's when they really threw out the playbook.
Really threw a wrench in what they were doing.
But this challenged some people on OK Computer with throwing in some new things.
Yeah.
Some different vibes.
Like for me, when I first heard that album, it was in college. So it was after 2010. So it's almost 13 years or 14 years after the album came out. And whenever I heard it, I was like, holy crap, like this album could have come out today, like this year in like 2013.
I listened to this one in 2017, 20 years after it came out.
Yeah. Came out in 97. And whenever I heard it, I was like, they were so ahead of their time.
Yeah, it really holds up.
Like in terms of composition, in terms of complexity of songs, like.
Even themes.
Yeah, themes as well. Because they talk about like androids and they talk about like AI and stuff like that. Yeah, that song is just crazy. And so, like for me, whenever I heard that song, like it sold me on radio, or not song, but album.
Yeah,
it sold me on Radiohead, like as a band, because they're constantly changing and constantly
challenging themselves.
Yeah, and I mean, some of the members even write score films.
Johnny Greenwood
scores for films.
He's written a ton of Paul Thomas Anderson stuff.
It's crazy.
Yeah, they're just a band that doesn't ever phone it in. I think.
Yeah,
they write things that are new, different, and exciting.
Yeah.
And that's what this album is.
For sure.
I love Radiohead's probably one of my favorite bands now.
Yeah. They're fantastic.
They're no Blink-182.
They're like a close 10th or...
Yeah, in my opinion. I think
second.
People who listen to music seriously, not that I don't, I genuinely do, but people who are a bit more snobs would turn their nose up to me at saying Blink-182 is way better than Radiohead.
Yeah, for sure.
But I am a nostalgic-fueled idiot.
Hey, man, you just know what you like.
I know what I like and I'm loyal.
Yeah.
To a degree.
But I completely agree with that being your first one.
Yeah, I think it's great.
I think it makes a lot of sense.
I love Radiohead now.
Yes.
In fact, when I was cutting the grass today, I listened to a bunch of things, but I listened to In Rainbows and Hail to the Thief.
I love In Rainbows.
Yeah.
So I think that might be my favorite.
It might be mine also.
It might be my favorite album.
We'll do one off on that eventually.
Yeah, it's just so good.
It really is.
But anyway, my number one album, and you guessed it right, Steve.
But which one?
The Flatliners.
Okay, Flatliners.
Inviting Light.
I knew you loved that album.
Yeah.
Surprised there was no propaganda though.
Yeah. I guess I'll make them my honorable mention.
Fair enough.
Yeah. But I'll say our one-off episode of Victory Lap instead of the...
supporting cast?
Yeah.
Yeah, fair enough.
Anyway, the reason that I chose Flatliners, which, by the way, was episode 74, the album Inviting Light, is because when I heard that, I literally listened to that album over and over again for at least 2 months or 3 months.
When I bought that on CD, I had that in my car for months on end. So I was in the same. I loved it. It's so good.
Yeah, it's just like in terms of cohesiveness of an album, the composition of each song, like the drums being consistent throughout, the melody lines being, not all the same type of thing, being diverse enough to make them consistent, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Every song belongs on an album, but stands on its own.
Yeah, exactly.
And if you're familiar with the Flatliners, especially with their earlier stuff, when they were a beer-soaked ska punk band where every song was breakneck speeds.
Yeah.
And his voice was snotty.
Yeah.
This is a 180.
Yeah, then you have these songs on Inviting Light where on one song he starts off on the major seventh of the key that they're singing in.
Longing for
Yeah, it's just like
answer. I think they listened to some Foo Fighters.
Yeah, but I mean, it's more rock and roll, less punk.
Yeah.
Right, but it's still
there's definitely punk influence in there.
The songs are
so
just so good, like as close to perfect as you can get.
Yeah.
For like an entire cohesive album.
This is,
in my opinion,
absolutely my favorite album that they've done.
Yeah.
I think you would really like the album before this. I will recommend it at some point. So don't listen to it. It's Dead Language.
Okay, I have not listened to that. Yeah. I have listened to Cavalcade.
Yeah, that's a very good one too.
Yeah, but yeah, that's the main reason why I chose that, or chose the Flatliners, is because just how much I loved the album.
Yeah,
and like how much it stuck with me.
And that's a sign of a good album.
Like I always say, if I had to choose like 10 albums to bring on a road trip, I would definitely bring this one.
I would definitely pick OK Computer.
It would be one of the first ones that I choose, for sure.
I would also pick Hazards of Love, road trip style.
Dude, it's meant for a road trip.
It is. You have to hear the story front to back, otherwise what's the point?
You have to not talk during it and pay attention, because they do tell a story throughout the entire album.
But any of the albums on my top 5, I would bring on a road trip.
Yeah, for sure. Same here.
Yeah. These would be albums number 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. The first 5 would probably be Blink albums. Just kidding. Just kidding.
Yeah. Well, I think before we finish the beer, looking forward to the next episode.
Do we want to do a one-off on the next
episode?
Yeah.
I know we have some recommendations as well that we're eventually going to get to. But I think for the next episode, we'll do a one-off.
Yeah. Any thoughts on what you think we should review? I've got an idea.
Okay.
At first, I was thinking maybe the new Pears album.
Yes.
But
we could do
their side project, at least Zach Quinn's side project with Brian Wallstrom, Band-Aid Brigade.
That's a fantastic idea. That album came out this year.
Yes.
And it's fantastic. So, yeah, why don't we recommend that?
All right. Band-Aid Brigade's album, I think it's called I'm Separate.
Yes. I believe you are correct. I Am Separate, right?
Yes, it is called I'm Separate. I just had to check real quick. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea.
Yeah.
Let's do that.
A really unique, fun album.
Yes.
What do you think about this beer as it warms up?
It has just gotten
I think it's opened up a little bit flavor-wise.
It's gotten more and more intense.
The flavors it's still like so caramel heavy. I think that's the one thing that I get more than any other flavor. In a good way, though. I'm not complaining. I love that.
You know how a lot of the times in big stouts, you get like a really marshmallowy feel in terms of the creaminess?
Yes.
I'm not getting marshmallow here.
I think I get a little.
In terms of creaminess, though.
Oh, not creaminess, flavor. Maybe that's the vanilla.
I think I'm getting the vanilla. And it almost makes it feel like coffee creamer.
If they had added lactose, they added milk sugar to this, though. So maybe that adds a slight creaminess, but maybe not as marshmallow as you would.
Yeah. But overall, though, Bearded Iris, 10 out of 10.
Yeah. And I think it hides the booze.
It hides the booze so well.
I mean, you can tell it's not 4%, but it does not taste like 10% at all.
It is insanely well balanced.
Yeah. That's a very good beer.
There's not one dominant flavor. I mean, like, if I did have to choose one, it definitely would be caramel.
Same.
But it's not
it's not
so dominant that it's separate.
Yeah, like my aftertaste right now is like a burnt caramel. I think because the coffee.
Yeah, it's like the coffee, caramel, a little bit of vanilla,
Little bourbon.
little bit of bourbon.
Yeah, it's really, really interesting.
It's really tasty.
And we do have one more bottle that's related to this one. It's the Counting Sheep 2.
Yes.
And it has some kind of maple edition. So I don't know when we'll have that. Another special episode.
It'll be sometime, though.
It'll be sometime. And maybe that'll be good, too. Who knows? I'm sure it'll be good.
So do you want to finish this beer and then sign off?
Yeah. Before we do, though, if you want to reach out to us, give a, what you call it, a recommendation for an album. If you want to say hi.
We do recommendations from people who listen.
Oh, we've got our friend Bobbert has recommended some albums that we're going to be reviewing shortly.
And
here.
Jose, or Above, who actually made our logo.
Oh, yeah.
Has also recommended an album. So
we'll have to. We've got some recommendations to
we
get
definitely
through.
have some one-offs lined up.
If you want to be part of that elite club who's recommended albums, it's not so elite because anyone can be a part. Forget the elitists.
All you have to do is just message us on Instagram
or Twitter
or
Facebook.
Well, do Instagram though. That's what we check the most. Or at least I check that the most.
But if you don't have it, if you don't have Instagram, you can go on Twitter, Facebook, or if you really want to, you can send us an email at americanbrewsandtunes@gmail.com. Just reach out. Say hi.
So before we finish this beer, thank you for joining us.
Yeah, it's been 100 very good episodes.
It has been 100 episodes. It's pretty insane.
And what say you to 100 more?
I say, yeah.
Shit. I say, shit. I was trying to set it up. Down the 100 hatch.
Man,
I wish I had some. I think it was a 1 bottle limit per person, but I wish I had 100 bottles of these.
Yeah, seriously.
One for each episode.
But seriously, thank you guys so much for listening.
Yeah, we appreciate all you guys. My name is Stephen Johnston,
and my name is Jesse Titus,
and this is American Brews
and
That was improvised, everyone.
Here's a theme song, you know it's not a mean song. It's a good song, just as it should song. American Brews and Tunes. Shibbity-beeby-da.